Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do believe that we have a quorum of members present as well as our presenters for the first item on the agenda. So as it is 1:00, I believe we can begin with the business of the meeting whenever you're ready to do so.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we'll call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. At least we have a nice sunny day out there and not a rainy, doomy, gloomy weather forecast like we've had for a while. So it's great to see it, and hopefully we're on a good stretch of warm, dry weather for the next little while. I just want to ask if there's any declarations of interest. Anyone? No? Okay. And we'll start with the first item on the agenda, which is the Recreational Trailhead Study Phase 1 report. And that will be presented by Natalie Machegal. If I've got your name pronounced wrong, I'm sorry. And Andrea Nelson from GM Blue Plan. But before we hand that over, I just would like to present a motion that the report PDJ-JAAC-22-23 regarding Grey County's recreational trailhead study phase 1 be presented for review and comment. And could I have a mover and a seconder?
I can move it. It's Brooke.
Okay, thanks, Brooke.
And I will second.
Okay,
Andrea?
thanks, Andrea. Okay, I will hand it over to Natalie and Andrea.
Thank you. And through the chair, good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to briefly introduce Andrea Nelson, who has been retained by the county to complete the trailhead study. So it's a phase study, and it involves assessing select trail access points with high visitor demand in effort to create a roadmap for future infrastructure planning. So Andrea is just going to give a brief overview of the phase 1 report that was just completed, and then speak to some of the results and highlight specifically the AODA portion of the report. And we're really looking forward to any comments or feedback the group might have. So I don't want to take any more away from Andrea's presentation, so I'll pass it off to her.
Thanks, Natalie. I'll just go ahead and share my screen. This might take a moment. If you don't mind me asking, I'm just going to do that. And do you see just one slide there? Do you mind me asking, or do you see the full?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Andrea. I do, if you click duplicate slideshow there, we'll see the slide. Right now we're seeing your presenter view.
Okay. It is not allowing me to do that, so I'm just going to X out and reshare, if that's okay. There we go. That's better. Okay, so Natalie, thank you for the introduction. This presentation ultimately presents the findings of the recreational trailhead study. There were 2 phases to it, including phase 1 and phase 2, which I'll go through later. The phase 2 was ultimately presented as preliminary in the report at this time. The study was initiated last summer. But before I begin, I would like to thank the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for their interest in this project. Further, at the end of the presentation, I would welcome any feedback or other considerations that I could include in the report. So this presentation, I will outline the purpose. I'll provide an overview of the study area and study approach. I'll provide a description of the ranking system used for the assignment of low, medium, and high priority properties, and I'll describe that more in a bit. I will provide a brief overview of the high priority properties identified with a more detailed description of the locations where AODA compliance may be achieved. In addition, an overview of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act will be provided, as well as its applicability to the study as I saw it, and recommendations will also be provided. The purpose. The study was intended to help guide the future planning and management of select trailheads and Beaver River access points, ultimately to set the infrastructure roadmap required to sufficiently meet the visitor demand of the natural recreational areas within the county. The development and maintenance of the day use parking is necessary to achieve continued social and economic benefits to the region, while also recognizing the environmental values of the county's recreational areas. The study area was comprised of 17 properties, many of which can be accessed by 2 or more trailhead locations, 4 Beaver River access points extending from Kimberley through Heathcote and north to Slabtown. Overall, the study included the review of 44 existing and potential trailhead locations and 9 Beaver River access points. The recreational areas span between the municipality of Grey Highlands, the town of Blue Mountains, Georgian Bluffs, Meaford, West Grey, and Chatsworth. The study was comprised of 2 components, as we previously mentioned. Phase 1 focused on the development of a framework to guide the trailhead improvement initiatives. It involved a desktop review and physical review of all existing and potential trailhead locations and Beaver River access points, the development of a ranking system, categorization into low, medium, and high priority locations, and the identification of development opportunities and project efficiencies. The intention of phase 2 was to focus on the high priority locations identified during phase 1 and to review the existing potential alternate access locations and site-specific project feasibility. The ranking system. Information collected as part of the review process was evaluated to rank the priority locations for infrastructure investment based on a set of criteria that included property users and usage, parking capacity issues, safety considerations, and lot condition and maintenance. In general, each criterion provided was provided a ranking between 1 and 3, with 1 indicating a positive condition, in other words, sufficient capacity or overall good lot condition, and 3 suggesting insufficient capacity and or poor existing conditions. High priority locations were considered properties that had an overall score of greater than 9. It is recognized that the rankings were subject to interpretation. However, it is thought that the ranking system overall sufficiently fulfilled the intent, which was to identify parking areas requiring more immediate attention. In addition, the potential to achieve AODA compliance was recognized due to the importance of ensuring that AODA compliant trail systems are developed in the community where possible. Although AODA compliance was considered as a criterion, due to its applicability to only 2 locations, these locations were assigned a high priority. Based on the 4 ranking criteria, a total of 5 high priority locations were identified, including Beaver River access point number 3. This is located in the community of Heathcote, adjacent to the Free Spirit Tours property. Hogs Falls and Metcalf Rock, both situated within Crown Lands. These are popular tourist attractions and experience frequent and significant parking capacity issues. The Laurie Forest parking area, which has been established within a municipal right-of-way within the town of Blue Mountains, and the Duncan Caves parking area, which provides access to Duncan Escarpment Provincial Nature Reserve. This lot is adjacent to the 9th Side Road at the crest of a very steep hill. In addition, based on the potential for AODA compliance, the proposed Kimberley Forest property and the Chatsworth Rail Trail were also identified as high priority locations. The next few slides speak to the AODA and its applicability to the recreational trailhead study. I will then provide a brief overview of the 2 trailhead locations determined to offer potential for AODA compliance. So the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, as you guys are all probably aware, states that the people of Ontario support the right of persons of all ages with disabilities to enjoy equal opportunity and to participate fully in the lives of the province. Of the 5 accessibility standards, the design of public spaces standards is considered to be the most relevant to the study. The goal is to help eliminate physical barriers to accessing some kinds of outdoor recreational experiences. The standards apply to newly constructed and redeveloped recreational trails that an obligated organization, such as a local government, intends to maintain. The standards do not apply to wilderness and backcountry trails. As such, when considering the requirement for AODA compliance at the trailheads, the adequacy of the trail system was taken into consideration. Ultimately, the applicability of the accessibility standards to design features that may need to be incorporated at the trailhead ultimately hinges upon whether the trail systems and uses associated with a given recreational area are required to be compliant or may be considered exempt. This required a clear understanding of how wilderness trails may be defined. As there is no definite definition of wilderness trails provided in the Act, the trail systems within the recreational areas were compared to the 4 categories of trails presented in the Ontario Trails Council trail policy. And I included a copy of this policy in the report for reference. According to this reference, with the exception of the rail trails, the majority of the trail systems, most of which are single tracks, would not be subject to the AODA standards. Further, provided the natural terrain and trail features, fully accessible trail development may not be supported when the overall impacts to the natural environment and project costs are considered. However, as previously mentioned, 2 locations were identified to have the potential to achieve AODA compliance. The Kimberley Forest Trails are located south of Kimberley in the municipality of Grey Highlands. The Friends of Kimberley Forest has initiated planning for the development of a parking area and trail access at the base of the escarpment adjacent to Grey Road 40, right in this field where you can see some cars drawn in on the schematic. This is being proposed to help resolve parking issues and associated safety issues in this area. The plan includes for the construction of a pedestrian bridge across the Beaver River. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is where the pedestrian bridge would be developed. In addition, it's thought that the trails running along the Beaver River could be developed with slopes that may accommodate challenged mobility users. So the trails that extend along the Beaver River and run further to the north towards Kimberley. The other location that may support AODA compliant trail systems is in Chatsworth. There is a group that is actively looking into options in this area at this time. The community hub has been approved for Chatsworth. The construction timing is dependent on funding, so they're waiting for infrastructure grants and other funding opportunities to follow through to be able to implement this proposal. In the interim, they are using the property as park space. At this time, a ball diamond and playground exists. In terms of the trailhead study, the idea is to focus the investment on the trail system rather than the park area itself. And ultimately, if a connecting trail is developed between the hub and the rail trail is this brownish red line along here, a 1.8 kilometer loop could be developed, extending from the hub along the rail trail and back through the community of Chatsworth back to the hub. The potential to achieve AODA compliance would be subject to further review. It's unclear whether we could develop appropriate slopes at this time. The connecting trail would also be subject to Bray Sauble Conservation Authority approval as it falls within or at the edge of a provincially significant wetland. What else can be done? The AODA legislation covers a wide range of disabilities. Although the majority of trail systems will not likely achieve compliance, providing some compliant features may assist in making the recreational properties and associated trail systems more accessible overall. Accessible features may include signage and washroom facilities. Presenting, with respect to signage, presenting detailed information about the trail system may help provide visitors with sufficient information to determine whether the trail system or part thereof may be accessible to them. AODA compliant signage may include details such as the length of the trail, surface construction, minimum trail length, maximum slope, and location of amenities, amongst other options. And with respect to washroom facilities, they're based on the results of the trailhead study and feedback received. I don't foresee that any washroom facilities will be constructed. However, portable toilets are now offered in all kinds of, there's options with respect to portable toilets. So the requesting a wheelchair accessible facility would be possible and may be considered. Recommendations. The two locations identified to have potential to achieve AODA compliance are in the early stages of project planning. It's recommended that the committee stay abreast of these developments. It is also recommended that trailhead works and or development of new trails consider the implementation of accessible features as possible. In addition, it's recommended that consultation with the accessibility committee occurs and as part of any planning and design process. That is the end of the presentation. At this time, I invite the committee to ask any questions that they may have or provide any feedback or recommendations. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Andrea? Or comments from the committee? Anyone?
I will jump in here and just mention that if no one has any questions that they have right now, if they think of anything or have any recommendations, we are receiving comments until May 12th. If you require additional time, just send me an email by May 12th and I can confirm, I can wait for those comments. If you can provide me a date that you can provide them by.
That's great. Kathy.
Through you, Chair. Thanks very much for the presentation. It was a really well done presentation, and I appreciate that the endeavors to make something that's not required to be accessible as possible. I think it sets a precedent for best practice moving forward. I really like the idea of the accessible porta potties, because I think that really makes a big difference for all trail users, and hopefully that will be able to work out.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Andrea.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I appreciated the PowerPoint presentation because I did download in advance the report that was in the package and zoomed in on that columns list. It's that comprehensive list of the trailheads. But did I miss an email where that PowerPoint has been circulated to us? Because I would really like to digest it and be able to review it.
For you, Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, thanks, Sarah.
It will be posted to the website following the meeting today.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just because that's very helpful, the way that you've outlined it with the maps and such. So I'd like to be able to zoom in on those as well. I'm not as familiar with those two properties, so I'm keen to hear any feedback from anybody else.
So I'm going to speak up on the two properties and say that there are groups individual groups of the Friends of Kimberley Forest. And I'm not sure what the group for Chatsworth is called, but I do know that there's a group looking into it actively at this time. So if there is an interest, it wouldn't hurt to reach out to those groups. It's, as I've indicated in the report, there's potential. This is always subject to further review based as discussed in the report.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea, for your presentation. It was well done. I agree with Kathy's comments. It's well put together and well presented to the committee. So thank you for your time today on that. I'll take it back to the committee. Can I get a vote on the motion that was presented? Everyone in favor? I can't see hands of everybody. Sarah, are we? I see Andrea.
Through you, Madam Chair. Brooke has just raised her hand. Perhaps it would be simpler to just ask if there are any opposed.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Are there any members of the committee opposing to the motion? No? Brooke, I know your hand's up, but I think it was up from the previous voting in favor of the motion. Okay, motion carried. Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Grey Roots Museum and Archives and the draft accessibility plan. And that is with Jill Patterson. I will read our motion prior to Jill presenting. That the Grey Roots Museum and Archives draft accessibility plan be presented for review and comment. Can I have a mover? Mover Brooke, and a seconder, please. Andrew, possibly? Andrea? Great, thank you. Okay, I'll hand it over to you, Jill.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction. My name's Jill Patterson. I am a middle-aged woman. I'm wearing kind of a purpley lavender cardigan. I have medium length brown hair, and I'm going to be walking you through the draft accessibility plan for Grey Roots. Let me just get my presentation organized here. I have a little PowerPoint to help us steer along. 1 second. All right, you guys are seeing a PowerPoint presentation there. Excellent. Okay. So each year, Grey Roots Museum and Archives applies to the Community Museum Operating Grant offered by the Ministry of Heritage, Tourism, Sport and Cultural Industries at the province of Ontario. The province outlines 10 standards for community museums that represent the minimum requirement for the operation of a good museum. Each year, eligible applicants to the Community Museum Operating Grant program are required to submit materials for evaluation to ensure that they continue to meet the criteria established in the grant. For this year, the ministry is requesting that all applicants submit a copy of their current accessibility plan when they submit their applications at the end of June. And all museums must have their own individual plan, which draws on the physical plant standard policy and the community standard policy. The plan may also draw upon the accessibility policy or plan of the municipality or larger entity which the museum reports to. And for Grey Roots, that's of course Grey County. A plan usually covers 3 to 5 years and should be no more than 5 pages long. So please know that I recognize my plan is 6 pages long, but I'll work on that after I receive feedback and get to the final draft. So here's Grey Roots Museum and Archives. The first slide just shows a picture of our main building sort of facing north, so facing the front doors. So the physical plant standard through the province of Ontario states that as a community museum, your buildings and grounds must provide a safe and functional environment for visitors, staff, the collection, and associated activities. This objective must be balanced with the need to preserve the integrity of heritage buildings as artifacts themselves, as well as archaeological resources present in the property. The community standard explains that a community's heritage is part of its identity, and as stewards of the community's heritage, the museum is actively engaged in the community and responsive to its needs. The museum is accessible and relevant and draws support from its community. An interesting part of this standard is that they're also interested in how we share access to our collections and programs through electronic means like the website or social media. So Grey Roots did not previously have all of its accessibility provisions gathered into one document or plan, but the work is still being done, I'm happy to say. It's been a valuable exercise to outline what's been going on at the museum and to see where the gaps are and where we can still improve. So the purpose of the plan is described this way. Guided by the principles of dignity, independence, integration, and equality of opportunity, this plan sets out the current actions and future goals at Grey Roots Museum and Archives to provide high quality, accessible, and inclusive services to people of all ages and abilities. The first page of the document covers many of the County of Grey's policies and plans that Grey Roots would be governed by, such as the accessible customer service policy, the multi-year accessibility plan, the corporate work plan, accommodation and accessibility policies, and of course, Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee that I'm happy to speak to today. Switching over to what we provide digitally, I've highlighted some of the resources, some of the articles, exhibits that we have on our website, including, let me just switch documents here. Oh, there you go. Grey Roots Museum and Archives holds a collection of over 15,000 artifacts in its permanent collection, and these objects can be explored online on our website. Grey Roots Archives can also be searched online, and access can be assisted by calling the archive staff, who are happy to assist. We have a selection of what we call Grey County Stories, which showcase dozens of searchable articles highlighting the people, places, and events that make up Grey County's history. I think there's dozens of articles there. We have a selection of online exhibitions and programs. I just wanted to highlight in my presentation the Facing the Flames exhibit, virtual exhibit, which is really interactive. You can navigate virtually around the Facing the Flames exhibit, click on different info points, listen to different media, video. It's pretty swish. Let's see. We also have a selection of online interactive maps that show significant locations of points of interest around Grey County, showing historical communities and locations of different historic sites and that kind of thing. Another way that we provide access is the consideration of a financial barrier. So we regularly provide admission through pay by donation days offered on special occasions such as Family Day, Welcome Week for newcomers, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, for example. But we also do monthly programs such as Toddlers Take the Museum, which is a partnership with Early On Centers and is free for those who register. We also do quite a few free lectures in our museum. Okay. So general provisions currently at Grey Roots Museum and Archives. I'll just touch on training. All Grey Roots staff and volunteers are required to take the county's accessibility customer service training. The training includes an introduction to staff responsibilities under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act, the Ontarians with Disabilities Act, and the Human Rights Code. It reviews Grey County policies and procedures associated with the corporate accessibility policy. Staff and volunteers are informed of the types of disabilities and barriers and guiding principles for accessible customer services and specific best practices for accommodation of various abilities. Communication, staff are just instructed to remember when communicating with a person with a disability. Staff are encouraged to be flexible in the provision of services in order to meet the needs of the individual, identify, remove, and prevent barriers, be respectful by serving the person while considering their disability. Information about the site layout and accessibility can be found in advance by calling the museum's visitor services team or online. Assistive devices. Grey Root staff are trained on the various types of assistive devices that visitors are welcome to use any device they need to access our site, and staff are reminded not to touch or remove assistive devices without permission. Service animals are welcome at Grey Roots Museum and Archives and Morriston Heritage Village in any location that is open to the public. A person with a disability may be accompanied by a support person to help them get around or complete tasks. The support person is not charged admission at Grey Roots. Staff are reminded to assist the customer, not the support person. And then Grey Roots looks to the public to help us improve accessibility at our site. Feedback can be provided online or by email or through the County of Grey's accessibility page. Visitors, online page, sorry. Visitors can reach out to Grey Roots by phone, mail, or in person. So some ideas about ways we could improve the general provisions in the next 2 years is an invitation to the Grey County Joint Accessibility Committee to conduct an accessibility audit at Grey Roots Museum and Archives, which I think would really help inform how things could be improved and what we should prioritize going forward. We could also do a great job if we could improve our accessibility page at Grey Roots. Right now, it basically just says we have some scooters you can use and call us if you have any questions. So we could do a lot better job giving people as much information as possible as they try to plan their visit to the site. In the next 5 years, where possible, we could implement the changes recommended through the accessibility audit, develop specialized tours in collaboration with community organizations to provide meaningful and engaging experiences of Grey Roots programs and exhibits for persons of all abilities, develop an access strategy to remove financial barriers from visitors to Grey Roots, such as consistent schedules of pay by donation days, continue to provide online access to collections, exhibitions, and historic houses at Grey Roots. So the plan also outlines a number of specific provisions at Grey Roots Museum and Archives. For example, access for persons with disabilities. So you can see here's our mention of, we have 3 motorized scooters that are available free of charge and are regularly used to get around the site. This is a very complex map of our site, trying to outline all of our health and safety requirements as well as accessibility provisions. So the entrance to the main building and Morriston Heritage Village have automatic door entry systems. There are 4 accessible parking spaces. Exhibit areas have space for movement of wheelchairs, walkers, and other mobility devices. There are 3 electric mobility scooters, as I mentioned. There are accessible washrooms in the main building and 1 in the schoolhouse building in Morriston Heritage Village. And we often have portable washrooms on site as well for big special events. And we always make sure to have an accessible portable washroom as well. The theater in the main building has accessible seating for mobility devices. The main building exterior lighting at all entrances has exterior lighting at all entrances and emergency exits. The following buildings in Morriston Heritage Village are accessible either by ramp or at ground level access. So the Moore and Muir Engine Works, which is at the back up here, the woodworking shop, log house, Orange Hall, the barn, the schoolhouse, the sawmill. We have a large historic machinery and equipment building, the Blue Water Garage, the George Rice Blacksmith Shop, and the Arnott General Store, which is not officially open yet, but will be hopefully in July. We also have historic interpreters that can engage visitors outside the buildings if they cannot enter. And we have artifact information binders that we bring out and portable artifacts that are shared with visitors. We also provide access for persons who are blind or who have visual impairments. There are magnifying glasses kept on site for visitors to use. When we're leading a tour, we often incorporate opportunities to handle objects where it's safe. And we have strips of paint in high contrast colors that are added to the edge of any stairs or platforms in the different buildings, especially the log house and the schoolhouse. The Grey County Gallery, which I've shown here, includes several auditory experiences to hear interpretation of artifacts and oral histories. There are 5 rotary phone listening stations and 3 cascading sound speakers with seating areas. So in the photograph, you can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but above this panel of images, there's a little square up at the very top. And that actually, if you just sit there, you don't have to press a button or anything. It just rains the sound down on you of someone describing their personal story or an artifact in front of you. And then over in the corner, you'll see one of our rotary phones, which are a real hit with kids because they don't know what they are. And they can't believe we used to use that. But if you pick that up and dial a number, you'll get a story of the corresponding artifact for that number. We also are very conscientious about AODA requirements for font sizes on a lot of our panels on our exhibits. And we also offer audio ones that are available and share the stories of 13 locations around Morriston Heritage Village. Okay. To speak to access for persons who are deaf or are hard of hearing, staff are trained to assist by speaking clearly and facing the visitor to assist those who may be lip reading. Information on the museum's exhibits is provided in print form. There are specific provisions for access for persons with intellectual disabilities or learning disabilities. Exhibit content is presented in plain language and includes images and objects for a variety of age levels and abilities. Staff are trained to be patient and speak clearly and directly. Hands-on experiences are offered to engage a variety of senses and learning styles. Access for persons with language barriers, for ESL groups or English as a second language groups, the teacher or interpreter are provided with free admission, and French language tours are available, are able to be arranged. Access for young visitors, Grey Roots education programs are developed on the principle of experiential learning. Hands-on activities are integrated into all programs. Programming is designed to be adaptive to the audience in a variety of ages and abilities. Grey Roots traveling exhibits provide many interactive experiences. And we recently opened a children's gallery that provides an activity center for families to explore with young children. A comfortable area is provided for nursing or bottle feeding. And sorry, I'm flipping back and forth there. We also have provisions for age-friendly access. Ramp and ground level entries are available at most of the buildings on site to support wheeled devices. Rest areas are provided throughout the main building and Heritage Village at Grey Roots. 3, again, the scooters are available, and written information is presented in large font sizes. So plans for improving the specific provisions in the next 2 years. We could do a better job of providing virtual tours of inaccessible heritage buildings in the village. We could develop those to be shared online or on site by using tablets or iPads or something like that. Permanent exhibition object and image information sheets can be translated for different languages and different age levels. We're working on interactive activity carts that will be added to the Grey County Gallery's permanent exhibits to provide play-based learning opportunities for young people and families. And then plans for future improvements to the specific provisions in the next 5 years are any new builds in Morriston Heritage Village will be accessible as per the Ontario Building Code. Accessible interpretive panels will be produced to accompany the village buildings so that visitors can be engaged in the history of the building, even if it's not accessible or if a staff person is not available to provide service. And I end just with a image of our schoolhouse, just because I'm here to learn. So I'm happy to open the floor for questions or comments.
Brooke?
I had a question about accessibility. Is it possible to put the information that you provide to people in print or in audio on your website so that somebody who's deafblind can then go to the website and read it with their Braille display or however they choose to read it?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's just I know my friend, that's something that she would always love to have the option of doing.
Okay. Yeah, we could provide a lot more information on our website, and there's no reason that that kind of information couldn't be added. I'll add that to our improvements in the next 2 years.
Christina, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I have just I kind of, and I know I've said this before to everybody that's on the committee. My question is how do you get it out there by word of mouth, etc., that you have more things that are probably accessible than people would think that you would have, right? And this is I posed this question back when we used to do what was that? Explore the Bruce. They used to go around, they had tables, and I went over to the table one day and he's like, do you want a map? And I said, okay, which one of these maps in Grey County shows me where that there are things that I can do that are accessible, or I can take my family because my child is in a wheelchair. And he was like, that's not a thing. And so how do we, and how do you band together of some sort? I don't know. And get that word out there that there is actually more to do. Because I know when Grey Roots first opened, there wasn't a lot of things that were accessible. And the lady at the front desk was not a lot of help. And I know things have changed, and that's really great. So how do you get that change out there? How do you draw those people to let them know that we are more accessible and we are working on it, etc.?
I see Kathy's hand up. Do you want to jump in?
I do, but really it's to second the motion.
Oh.
This is one of my biggest things that I struggle with, Christina, is outreach and how do you connect with the people who need the services. So that's something that I'm always looking for. I actually went to an age-friendly symposium in Meaford and did a little bit of networking over there. But yeah, getting that information out there is tricky, and you want to get it out there in a way that people are where they're looking for it. And who's going to go to the Grey County site to say, I wonder what's accessible in Grey County? That's not how people think intuitively. So I'm definitely open to any suggestions for how to broaden that stakeholder access piece for sure.
That's great, Kathy. And the only comment I have, Jill, is number one, thank you for the presentation. It was excellent. And I really like the idea that in your report, in your presentation, that you have identified improvements and future improvements that you're going to, ultimately achieve. And I like the idea that you presented those in the presentation to this committee. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. And I could say we could add that as a hopeful improvement is to put some attention to how we communicate out to community organizations and various networks to get the word out about what we can offer. So we'll say strategy development on communications of accessibility offerings.
That's great. Thank you.
No
Does
problem.
anyone else have any questions or comments for Jill from the committee? No,
I do. It's Brooke.
Brooke, okay.
So we always have a lot of visitors that come, whether it be for camping or for whatever reasons. So is there a way to target tourism, like wherever people would get their information for tourists? That might only hit tourists, but it would at least be a start. Kind of saying like, hey, did you know that all these things are accessible? And then they'll be able to then go out and see what else there is. And then like for actual people, maybe sending out some sort of, something. I don't know what the county sends out because I don't read our mail because I can't see it. So I just don't pay attention to what the county sends out. But I'm sure there's stuff that does get sent to residents where you could say like, hey, did you know that here at Grey Roots we're doing all these changes? And then just kind of like every once in a while saying, hey, did you know? Because somebody like my family might be like, oh, well, that's really cool. Maybe we should go check that out.
It's a great idea. Kathy, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for that, Brooke. I don't know why I didn't think of our own in-house tourism and Grey Roots communications strategy people, but I definitely will be connecting with them now. I'm somehow in my head, I was just thinking out there, but I wasn't thinking in-house we can reach out. So that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome, Jill. Thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Okay, and can I ask for any objections to the motion? Are there any objections? No, Brooke, you still have your hand up. I assume you're not objecting. Great. Okay, motion carried. So the next item on the agenda is the Town of Hanover's draft multi-year accessibility plan for 2023 to 2025. And Melissa Hilgendorf will be presenting. But before I will present the motion that the Town of Hanover's draft multi-year accessibility plan for 2023 to 2025 be presented for review and comment. Can I have someone to move the motion? Anyone?
Sure. Christina.
Thanks, Christina. And a seconder, please. Anyone?
I can do it
Andrea,
as Brooke.
thank you. Oh, Brooke, okay. Brooke, okay, thank you. And I will hand it over to Melissa. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the flexibility, first of all, in in the organizers of this meeting in kind of delaying sending out the agenda package so that we could include this plan. I really appreciate that. We are hoping to take our multi-year accessibility plan to council next week on Monday. And we'd really love to incorporate any feedback that this committee has within the plan. So this is the second plan that I've been a part of developing with the town of Hanover and bringing to the committee. And it is structured very similarly to our previous multi-year plan, where it's kind of laid out according to the legislative requirements. I feel that that has helped our staff kind of key in on those compliance areas. And we've been trying to work more collaboratively with all departments to try to include more information from different areas in the plan. So, I mean, this year, or this plan is, I feel, improved over our previous plan. And it is by having all, different people engaged, it is helping them to think about this moving forward. So I'm not going to go through the plan like in detail unless the committee would like me to. I thought I would stick to focusing on more so the highlights of our upcoming plans. It does include information about some recent initiatives, but I think the key is what we're going to do moving forward. So at this time, we do have our accessibility policies on the docket for review. So when this happens, it will be collaborative. Again, we have a bit of a working group who will be looking at some of these policies. And then once they are updated, then we'll be distributing them to all staff and being sure that they're reviewed and that everyone understands them appropriately. We are ensuring that our recreational programming and cultural initiatives serve a wide audience. So not that that's a new thing, but it is something that we see as growing in the town and as we bring in new initiatives and new programs. One area that we do recognize is an area for improvement is educating our staff in creating accessible documents. I know I myself have areas to learn in that. Kathy helped me with this plan actually in a few areas, so I appreciate that, Kathy. So our hope is over time that we will be able to create kind of a hub of resources and some education for our staff around that. We are also in the midst of implementing various pieces of software. One of those is called eScribe Agenda software, and so it will have ability to offer both PDF and HTML versions of agenda packages. And in a future phase of that, we'll see live streaming, which we would ensure is compliant with the WCAG items. We also are bringing on in the midst of bringing on a system called Citywide, and right now part of it includes a portal where the public can use it to provide feedback on or notify us of many things. And so they have set up a category in there related to accessibility. And that program is good to help ensure accountability because, it stays listed in the program as an outstanding item until it's not. So it really helps to make sure that those items don't fall off the radar and that someone is accountable for addressing them. And our building and planning department is looking to expand their cloud permit software just to provide increased ability for everyone to make their applications, whether that's in person or from home or electronically, whatever they would prefer. We are also looking at a new website platform. And I have shared that some other municipalities have kind of had a bit of a view of the new platform with this committee. So I planted that seed that when the time comes, perhaps we can have a demo for any feedback. And some projects coming up that we will definitely be considering accessibility within. You may have heard Hanover is considering a splash pad. Yet to be determined where that will be, but when the time comes, we will come to the committee for input and comment. We will be hopefully in the near future, maybe at our next meeting, bringing plans to the committee for the public areas of a new fire station that is going to be built. And we are looking at extensions to various sidewalk areas. And so we just recently discussed this at our management team and noting that we do need to have that public consultation as part of that process and consulting this committee. And otherwise, kind of outside of the legislated requirements, the town does aim to continue providing local businesses and developers and partners with assistance in considering and improving accessibility. And you may note that Andrew Wilkin from our Building and Planning Department, he will sometimes bring site plans to this committee for their inputs that can be shared with the developers, even though it's not a municipally owned building. It's something that our community members will be having access to. And we also have a funding program in place that can help our local businesses make improvements. And one of those main areas considers accessibility. Does anyone have any comments or feedback that they would like to share with respect to our multi-year accessibility plan?
Anyone have any comments for Melissa from the committee? No? Okay. Melissa, thank you for your presentation. That's great. It was wonderful. Thank you for explaining everything to us. Okay. Is there any objections to the motion that was presented by the committee members? No? Okay, motion carried. So the next item on the agenda is Grey Highlands Kimberley Community Hall Patio. Teresa Crawford will be presenting. I will present the motion prior to Teresa presenting, that the report Kimberley Community Hall Patio be received, and that the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee provide input for consideration for the installation of the new concrete patio. May I have a mover for the motion, please? From the committee. Anyone? Andrea, thank you. And can I have a seconder, please? Can I have a seconder from the committee? Andrew, thank you. Okay, Teresa, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so I'll just reintroduce myself. My name is Teresa Crawford. I am sitting in the place of Debbie Yip right now, and will be the contact going forward after May 15th. So this is my first time on sitting in on these meetings. So firstly, I'd just like to thank you for giving us the time to speak to this. I'll give you a little background on our project. It's a bit of a small project, more of a renovation. So in 2021, the Kimberley Safety Group approached the municipality of Grey Highlands proposing to revitalize the Kimberley Hall grounds by installing a pathway and decking on the north side, installing bike racks and a water refilling station on the south side, and constructing a bike repair station. These items will provide improved mobility for pedestrians and cyclists of all ages and abilities. So this undertaking, as a first stage of a larger Kimberley Safety Group vision, is intended to take place at the beginning of the spring 2023, and it will include a construction of a 30 by 17 foot stamped concrete patio adjacent to the existing accessibility ramp. A section of the existing railway, which is going to equal approximately 48 inches, will be removed to allow access from the ramp to the patio. The existing access ramp will be widened to provide a level area to the access, a level area to access the patio, and a second railing will be installed on the exterior edge of that ramp. I have a couple drawings here that I can show you just so you have a better idea of what we are talking about. So if you don't mind, I will share my screen. Okay. All right, so this is our Kimberly Hall. All right, and this is the area that we're talking about here. This is the stamped, I don't know, again, if you can see my mouse. This is the stamped concrete area that we are putting in. We're gonna have this section here. This is our existing accessibility ramp, and we need to open it up on this area right here to provide a ramp going down to that area. Okay, so that will provide accessibility. The next part shows what our existing railing looks like, and this is the part of the railing that we want to take out. Okay, so that's what we have to show for it. What I would just like to ask, basically, like we would like to ask the the Grey County Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, any feedback, any recommendations we'd like to take into consideration. This will put us in compliance with the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. And then I have with me, for any questions to be answered, my coworker, Mike Botello, who is here, and he has visited the site and has more information for any questions that there might be on the project. Okay.
There's a bunch of hands up there.
Okay.
For you, Madam Chair, I think you're muted.
For some reason, my mouse is not cooperating. Sorry, I saw Kathy's hand up.
I thought I might wait and see if my question gets covered.
Okay. Andrea.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I don't actually have a question about this because as a member of the Duncan community, straddling the town line, this has become our space where we can meet as a community, as a smaller community. Duncan/Egypt. I live in Egypt. So when we lost our Duncan town hall, we migrated over to the Kimberly Hall. And one of the reasons we appreciate it is because of the elevator access, because it does allow us to get to that space. So I think this is a fantastic idea to be able to do this expansion on the outdoors. You've always had such a lovely property there that I think the more we can make it easily for people to get inside, outside, be able to make use of that and not feel like they have to remain inside because there's adequate space with what you're doing, the better. So I thank you. I just want to put a note there that this is not just serving the local Kimberly community, it's serving people all around from Grey County who can access that building. So thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for Teresa? Kathy?
Hi there. Okay, thanks. Through you, Chair. I just wonder where you're going to take out the railing, what is the ground composition going to be? And does it kind of looks like there's a path there. Does that slope around to a door?
Now, do you want me to pull the slide back up?
Yeah, if you don't mind, if you maybe open up the picture with where we're going to open up the ramp, so I can probably better explain it here. So,
all right, this one?
No, the second one.
Okay.
With the gate, yeah, that one there. So, I think your question is, so behind where the current turf is, that's going to all be patterned concrete. And basically where you see the top two arrows where it says option 1, that's the only section we're going to remove. We're going to keep that corner piece in there for accessibility. And we're also going to extend on the other side a rail similar to that one, with also extending the concrete surface. I'm not sure if I answer your question there or if that's what you're after.
Well, I'm not familiar with the property and I'm not sure where the access is from there. Like If you take that out, where do you go after you go to there?
So you continue on in that right where Teresa's arrow cursor is right now, that dark gray, that ramp that goes, yep, that goes right from the front door all the way across that. So that goes out into the parking lot there to a accessibility parking spot there.
Okay, and so on the right of that drawing, it says Kimberley Community Hall. Where's the front, where's the front door?
So
The front door is to the
this
right.
is the hall.
No, yeah,
right?
to the right a bit,
Yeah.
go down, right where that ends. The dark gray ends. Yeah, right there. That's the front door area.
Okay, okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And then further to what Andrea was mentioning as well, I think this whole project is a continuation of the 2019 project where we installed the elevator to get full accessibility on a 2-story building. And it's pretty incredible that a 113-year-old building, we have the accessibility we do have there. So this is just an addition to that project and to that vision of the municipality of Grey Highlands.
That is great. Thanks, Mike, for that additional information. Does anyone else have any comments or questions for either Teresa or Mike from the committee? No? Any objections to the motion? Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Teresa and Mike, for your presentation.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda is the Township of Georgian Bluffs accessibility improvements. This is to Kilsyth Park and Derby Arena and Sarawak Family Park. And Neil Lobley will be presenting. I believe I've pronounced your name correctly. Is it Neil? Okay, okay. I think I did that last time. Yeah, thanks. Anyway, I will present the motion that the Township of Georgian Bluffs report regarding accessibility improvements to the Kilsyth Park / Derby Arena and Sarawak Family Park be presented for review and comment. Can I have someone move the motion, please, from the committee? Brooke, thank you. And a seconder, please. Can I have okay, Christina, thank you. And I will hand it over for presentation. Thank you.
Great stuff, and thank you very much. And thank you for making the time on the agenda for this subject. Obviously, I was here, I believe, at the last meeting, just flagging these ones, but without a report for review. I also apologize in advance because I suspect that the drawings at the back of the report are far from accessible. I have difficulty reading them, and I suspect that once they're into a PDF, they become inaccessible to anyone that's using screen readers as well. So my apologies in advance for that. Hopefully the report highlighted the key elements of that. So really bringing back a matter which I know has been before the committee a number of times before. So thank you, Kathy, for sending and sharing the previous times that this has been before the committee. So I think Sarawak Family Park came before the committee in 2019. And I think in 2020, we brought forward some initial ideas around the Kilsyth Park. So anyone that lives in Kilsyth, that park is actually going in this week. So they started putting the playground in this week. There will be a number of a period of time between the playground growing in and the playground actually being ready for use. It's one of those awkward projects in that the tantalizing, exciting bit goes in first, and then you have to do all the boring and dull work around the outside of it before the tantalizing, exciting bit can be used. But progress is being made on that project as we speak. So what I've brought back to the committee today, really for information, comment, awareness, and hopefully your endorsement, are plans for 2 trails associated with those 2 properties. So at the Kilsyth Park, the Derby Arena, there is a connecting trail that will be established between the park and the arena at the top. The arena has plenty of parking space, and so the intention behind this is to connect those two spaces in the community, but also to make sure that there is some parking available for anyone that wants to use the park, which is at the bottom of a fairly steep hill between the arena building and the park. And so the trail that will be created is cut into the side of that slope and sort of weaves its way down the slope to try and find the most accessible grade that we could, so that that hard surface will be an asphalt 3-meter wide trail that's created between those two areas will allow for accessibility for most users between the upper parking area and the lower park and playground area. So obviously, for anyone that knows that area, it's a relatively short distance and a relatively steep hill that's between those two areas. And so designing and engineering the trail to try and get as close to AODA requirements has been undertaken. It's not able to get quite there, but 4% grade for most of it, and its average running grade of 4%, cross slope of no more than 2%, just to maintain drainage. But without it being too steep. There is a section which will be running, have a running slope of around 5%, which is a little steeper than we would have liked, but there really isn't physically the space to be able to get down to a 4% slope in that area. So there's the trail at Kilsyth, linking Kilsyth Park and the Derby Arena. So that was the first of the two projects that was on the list today. The second one that's on the project is at Sarawak Family Park. And in a similar sort of vein, the intention here is to create accessibility through the park between the main sort of visitor entry point, which is the parking lot and washroom building at the front of the park, and then down through the park to the shoreline. And so again, although that park, as you drive past it, doesn't look like it's very steep, when you get into the park, it does slope quite steeply away, and it's a fairly consistent slope from Grey Road 1 down to the shoreline, and quite a drop in a relatively short amount of space. So the intention here is to create a trail. Again, it will be close to, I think it's 2.5 meter wide asphalt topped trail that will cut from the corner of the parking lot nearest the washroom. And it will maintain a slope of around about 4%, running slope of 4%, again, a cross slope of no more than 2%, as it goes from the parking lot down to more or less the back of the beach area. And then the hope is that we will be securing a Moby mat, which many other municipalities have deployed on beaches in municipalities. And the Moby mat will be installed seasonally from the bottom end of that trail on a diagonal line, again, to try and get a grade down as low as we can. The beach is quite steep. And for anyone that lives on the water this year, you'll have seen that the water levels are significantly lower than they have been for the last few years. And that means that we have quite an extensive run of Moby mat. We're predicting about 25 meters of Moby mat, and we should be able to achieve a 5% grade. Again, we're not able to get to 4% because the beach is the beach and it has natural undulations, and we can't get a line which makes sense to a 4%, but we can get down to roughly a 5% running slope on the mobility mat that will run from the end of that trail down to the water's edge. Mobility mats obviously are not going to provide the optimum surface for rolling over, or for folks with who are unstable on their feet or unsteady on their feet. And so, but it does enhance it over rock and sand. And so this is hopefully going to provide for increased accessibility down to the water's edge, even if it can't quite achieve accessibility for all. So they're really the two projects that are on the list. I did want to also, and you'll have seen I slotted it in because it was all happening just as I was writing the report. I know that this group has been involved in Grey's Families with Autism work in the past, and I'm delighted to say that we have received some signage from Autism and are busy installing that our playgrounds across. So that will also be installed at Sarawak Family Park and at the new playground at Kilsyth. And those boards are to aid with visual communication tips and aids, really, to assist people that may have partial verbal or non-verbal communication. And so just a few projects on the list, nothing that I didn't bring before you before or that hasn't been discussed, but just wanted to share this and say we're hoping to move forward on this fairly quickly. As I say, the playground's going in at Kilsyth, which is great news. And I believe we're aiming to tender this work as soon as possible. Council's approving budget finally this evening, so hopefully we'll get a tender out for the trail work to commence as soon as possible and be completed before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kathy, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I just wonder if there's any room in the budget to include signage just to talk about the grade that's almost there, but not quite, just to warn people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and actually been a topic of conversation here. So yes, there is. We can definitely look at that on these sites this year. It's interesting. We heard from the Trailhead study earlier on today, and it's a piece of work that I'm very keen to look at with the team here along our rail trail. There are sections of our rail trail which with relatively minor enhancements could be considered fully accessible, particularly as you come down to the trailhead that we have in Shallow Lake and head out along Shallow Lake towards Parkhead. That section is really on a singular grade and already has a good base underneath it. So that would be a project I'd be keen to look at as well. So we are looking at some signage in which we'd be able to convey what slopes people will encounter, where parking is accessible and where washrooms are and those sorts of things. And so we're looking at that from a consistency perspective, but yet we can definitely address that either on an interim basis at those two park sites or as part of that more permanent program. The other thing I should stress is, and I know the group has done, will be aware of some of the work that's been going on in terms of accessibility here. We're very keen to improve the information on our website. And so again, looking at how we might be able to present some of that information in more detail. You know, you've got plenty of space on a website for somebody that's interested. And so we can certainly expand on some of the opportunities we have in our parks and trail system in the township on our website.
Excellent. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment. I am so pleased to hear about the Moby Mat. A number of years ago, in my past history with accessibility, I had introduced the Moby Mat to the municipality of the town of Wasaga Beach. And I do believe that they were the first municipality in Ontario.
They were the first I heard about, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, and I love the idea that the Moby Mat is still going strong. And something for the future, I don't know if it's something to be taken into consideration, are the Moby chairs.
Yes, so I'm interested in the Moby chairs, and that would be something I'd love to bring back to this group at some point in the future. Is how we might be able to manage the Moby chairs at Sarawak. It'd be an ideal location for the Moby chairs. We have a perfect entry into the lake at that point for the chairs to actually roll into the lake, which they're designed to be able to do. And so I'd love to talk to this group more about how we might be able to manage that at that site.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm sure that there's probably some funding out there that would be available for that as well. That's great to hear. I'm glad it's going to be on the agenda for down the road.
Very much so. And as you see in the report, Sarawak, this isn't the end of the story when it comes to accessibility improvements. The next thing on our radar is really, we're hoping to add some more seating and benches this year. Again, if we can stretch the funding out a little bit, we've got a couple of funding applications in that might give us a little bit more room for maneuver on that. So if we can do that, we will. And then at some point in the not too distant future, we'd like to look at the playground there. And that's a playground where we can make some significant enhancements to its accessibility for visitors dropping into that park site. So hoping to continue a path of improvement in this site.
Great. Great work being done by Georgian Bluffs. Thank you very much. Does anyone on the committee have any questions or any further comments? Anyone from the committee?
I'm happy it's council tonight. I'm going to get lots of questions one way or another. So we're good.
Okay, well, we'll save our questions. You can take them tonight.
Okay. Great stuff.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the time, folks.
Thank you very much. Okay, any objections to the motion from the committee? No? Okay, I don't see anybody or hear anybody, so the motion is carried. And there are no, carrying on with the agenda, there's no reference documents. There's no other business. And I guess the next item is our next meeting date has been scheduled for September the 6th at 1 p.m. Unless Sarah, I believe, unless something else is presented to the committee in advance of that scheduled meeting.
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, this date had been previously floated to committee members, and it just in the interest of giving our municipal partners heads up for any future items. I was hoping that I might be able to confirm that meeting date with you folks today. And if anything further should be required in the meantime, we will be in touch with you to book a meeting if needed.
Yeah. Okay.
You said September 6th?
Yep, September 6th at 1 p.m.
I have no conflict.
Okay. Does anyone else have conflict? No. I don't have conflict either. Sarah?
Perfect.
Andrew, Brooke?
I'm good. That's
Okay.
that's still Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and Andrew, are you good for that date as well, for Sarah's sake?
I good too.
Great, thanks, Andrew.
Perfect. So I will get that on the books and sent out. And if anything comes up in the meantime, I'll be in touch.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone, and have a great afternoon and enjoy the sun.
Thank you,
Take-
everybody. That was a good meeting.
Thanks, Kathy. Take care.
Thanks, Catherine. Bye.
Bye-bye, Andrea. See you soon.